Alright, I think I got it. I needed a little prodding. I asked around a little bit because I was trying to figure out, like, okay, I just need to know, are we supposed to know the answer or not? That was the main... I'm trying not to get spoiled or sequence break, so I don't want to, like, look up answers, and I don't want to... But I also don't want to, like, fuck up and start over and try a different character's route, and then hope it gives us the answer, and then find out that, no, that's not how it works either. But, so I'm rereading it, and I think... I was told specifically that the passwords are no longer capitalized at this point. And so we're not gonna be, they're not gonna just be like, here's the word! We're just gonna have to like go back and scan the previous thing again to figure out what we think is the ending. And this was the scene that I previously zeroed in on, of like this heart-to-heart moment with Orlando seems like the moment where you would convey a password, and I was expecting a password during the scene the first time, but that didn't happen. But I'm looking at this line, and it says, a peacekeeper, huh? The idea stuck with me, but I couldn't place why. And I just wrote down like a dozen different passwords, potentially, but I'm gonna go ahead and skip ahead and try this one, because that seems like the game basically telling me that the answer's peacekeeper. So I'm gonna see if that's the case. Yep.
There we go.
Okay, we did it. I felt the wind knocked out of me, and I doubled over, vision blurring until there was nothing but black. I could hear it, as if it were happening right next to me, the ragged intake of air of someone in pain. What I saw caused immediate alarm. I wanted to scream, but nothing came out. My hand went for my head to grab it, or try clawing out whatever I had seen, but they never made contact. Orlando had been shot. But by who? When? Was he going to be okay? He looked alive still, so maybe there was a way to save him, even if this happened. When I came to, I was on my back, staring at the ceiling. My head was pounding, my vision was still coming into focus, and my hands scrambled across my front in an effort to make sure everything was alright. Laying there was for a bit helped, letting me get my breathing back under control. Tiredness washed over me as I wondered how I ended up on the floor and how long I'd been down there for. It was dark down here now, as if someone had shut off the lights, assuming no one else was down here. No sign of Tyson, or anyone else. But if that was the case, then did they know I was down here? By the time I'd gotten back upstairs, I could hear the others chatting in the dining room, their voices echoing out from the dining room. I looked from... I could hear them chatting in the dining room, their voices from the dining room. I looked up the foyer upstairs, wondering if what I'd seen could be avoided. I've done it once before, right? By the time I'd gotten back, everyone else was mid-conversation about something, not even pausing when I reappeared. Oh, and this is all old. Oh, never mind. Was it going to stay that way? I thought about what I had seen. And if what happened last time was any indication, now was the time to consider keeping a close eye on people. Or maybe just warn them to make sure that nothing bad happened? Bloop. And then he's gonna maybe not do that? I was on edge for old dinner. I hadn't realized that I spent most of dinner shooting glances at Orlando until Sal handed me a napkin to wipe my face. How much time did I have until what I saw happened? I just wish I knew where the gun had come from. Why was there one here? Who would know where it was? Would finding it change anything? No one was dead, right? It is an interesting problem to deal with, where they get the, it's a form of, like, cross-timeline knowledge, but it's timeline knowledge that's so vague that he doesn't know what to do with it for a while.
Mm-hmm.
But I wasn't paying attention to either of them. I was focused on the gun. Orlando gets shot. Was it about to happen? Was this the point that I had to step in? There was no point in risking it. If I didn't get there first, who knows what could happen. I shoved Dean and Ty aside, only probably doing so because they'd been caught off guard, scrambling before I got to Benson's body and soon slipped, falling onto my butt just shy of landing on his blood. You slipped and landed on your butt. It's a real specific. That's a tough angle to slip in if you're leaning forward to grab a gun. But just looking at it made me pale. I began to panic before realizing what I'd done and why I'd done it. Shutting my eyes, I spun around, voice cracking as I called to the others. Guys? Help! Right. Dean, help me out here. Sure. He's such a dumb baby at trying to get the gun that he just falls over and cries, and then his two boyfriends go comfort him instead of fighting over the gun. That's how he accomplishes this.
How we got here is very challenging and frustrating, and then the fact that this is how it pays off
is extremely funny.
Is remarkable.
If Toaster sounds tired, it's because since the last episode we spent like 20 minutes trying to troubleshoot how to proceed in this game because we were out of branches to try and none of them had the answer, so we're like, hang on a minute.
Yeah.
So this game has a bit of a conveyance issue in that when you're first given a password, it feels like a tutorial. Like, here's the password, and it tells you a password in caps, and then you go type the password in that you got in the bad ending to get a not bad ending. Not really an ending, just continue to not. You just don't get the bad ending. And so it seems like that's going to be your setup. Like, okay, that's how this game works. We understand the loop. But it seems like they then immediately stop doing that, and maybe even for the rest of the game now, we're just supposed to like pick up on a phrase that sounds kind of significant, and then realize, oh, that might be a password, and write it down.
Yeah.
But the fact that we didn't have to infer the first password and it just told us outright, and then we didn't have much indication that that rule was going to change, meant we weren't looking for things that might be a password, because we were looking for things that just are the password, because that's how it worked so far.
Yeah, it's just like kind of poor communication. But it's bad signposting, basically, is the issue there.
Because in a way it is signposted in the fact that it's like, Peacekeeper, huh? Weird. That sticks with me for some reason. It's like it almost is like a looking at the camera, this is obviously the password type line. Except for the fact that we were already shown how passwords are communicated, and it was not that format. So we're not looking for that kind of comment, because that's not how it worked last time. Whereas, like, previously, the conversations with Sal being so weirdly heavy-handed about, like, Somnus, Dreamer, like, if they hadn't caps locked Dreamer at us, and the answer was just, like, Somnus or something, that would have been a reasonable thing to guess because of how that scene played out. Yeah. But we didn't guess it. We were just told the answer, so that primed us not to be guessing answers. And it's dangerous.
And then when we tried guessing answers, it didn't work. So it was like, okay.
Yeah, but it's also like, as we had just explained last episode too, it's really dangerous to guess answers in a game like this, because you could break the story if you do it wrong. And so you don't want to get it wrong. If you don't want to, the tough thing is knowing that you're supposed to know the answer. Like,
yes.
If you know that you're supposed to know the answer, then you can guess what the answer is. But if you're not sure you're supposed to know the answer, then you're worried you're just going to break the game and make the story bad by getting the correct answer at the wrong time and ruining it. So
yeah,
it was just like a moment of like, okay, we thought,
how do we do this?
We have one example of how the game works so far, and this doesn't match it, so now we're worried.
Yeah, I think it's just a consistency thing. If you introduce something to your players or your readers as the way something is communicated, you need to make every other aspect that communicates the same mechanical importance consistent with that depiction, or else it doesn't work. Because what you're doing is you're priming an audience for one method of communication and then delivering them another. So that's fine. It's amazing to me that like we had to be shrewd investigators and like pick up the very obviously signposted thing once we realized that it wasn't going to be all caps. But then the way that he solves the problem isn't thematic with it. It's just that he trips. Like,
that's very funny. Like, he just falls over. His attempt to solve the problem is just so goo-goo baby that he just accidentally solves the problem because everyone's like, oh, no, Dave, oh, well, don't worry. You want a binky?
Because the conversation with Orlando is like, yeah, if only someone could be there to arbitrate the issue. You know, someone who could possibly keep the peace. you know, like a peacekeeper, like someone actively preventing an argument between two people with a dangerous weapon, you know, like keeping them apart and not having them kill me by mistake. And you're like, okay, now I'm primed that this is going to be something. But then here it's just like you put peacekeeper in. Dave isn't being a peacekeeper here. He just trips and is an idiot. So it's just a very funny
here's my series of
for
passwords
that.
I wrote down until I hit the really obvious line of, oh, peacekeeper. I wrote flowers, bear tranquilizers, medication. Because, like, Orlando, like, looks off and he's like, medication? Like, like it's an important word. Like, when you're looking for what the important word is, a lot of weird anime ellipses start to sound like they're the answer. Mm-hmm. Picnic, because that's what they're looking forward to doing if he ever gets better. Do-over, shot, tank, because they were like, well, you know what we need is, we could have needed a tank. Wait. And then arbitrate, interject, demand, cop, peacekeeper. So eventually the peacekeeper line is reinforced so hard they're like, okay, that must be it. I'm gonna stop checking for passwords now. But like even the surrounding conversation with arbitrate, interject, demand, like, yeah, like a demand. Do you know what a demand is? If you made a demand, maybe everyone would listen to you. But you have to be like, but it's not nice to make a demand. It's like, you're going to have to make a demand. And I'm like, okay, obviously the password's demand. And I thankfully didn't stop there because I was about to put demand in. Because of
for sure.
It's just, it gets way foggier once the answer isn't just the caps lock word. And that it makes me a little leery just because I'm a little worried about,
like, how many passwords have we missed so far? Because it's given us multiple times, you know, of like things.
Maybe. I'm only assuming there's a password relevant whenever we get a bad end, but that doesn't necessarily, we don't know for sure because who knows what the structure is. But what was I about to say? I lose it. Oh, it's just
you were about to type in demand.
In this case, we had a very obviously telegraphed scene in that. When we got to the hospital scene, I was like, this has to be the password, right? This is like, wow, what could we have done differently? Scene that's in the bad end, and I'm like, something about this is going to be like, he's going to say something poignant, but then I missed it because it wasn't the format we were used to. I'm worried that if there isn't an obvious scene to check and we miss the password again, that you could have like 1,000 or more, even thousands of words to parse and read over again and again, wondering where the password is that you might be missing, and that could get real rough real fast.
Definitely.
That stuff just worries me a bit. But anyway, we're a sad baby, and everybody's babying us now. We saved Roswell with our own infantilization.
Not Roswell, Orlando. It's remarkable.
My bad.
It's just so remarkable that he's like, I'm going to save the day, and then just runs towards a body, trips in blood, and then is like, owie, help, please. And then the two other people that previously were gonna fight now just aren't gonna fight.
It was just maybe if the word was like protect or something, I was just thinking like maybe if they had someone they needed to protect and that wouldn't have happened. Or I'm just trying to think of like how to make the password more resonant with the thing we did. It's just extremely funny that the scenario is grim, but I don't know, it's very easy to make these scenarios that are grim funny. But we ran at a dead body with the mission to grab the gun before Orlando would get shot by the mistake, and then we just fell over like a sad baby, and then we're scared of the blood, and somebody make me stop crying, and then just like even we seem to forget about the gun, and I'm just, Dave, come on, man. The stakes were save Orlando from being shot, and you're like debilitated by Benson's blood. You're like, come on, man.
This is genuinely funny.
Like as if he was surprised by it, the thing he ran towards and knew was there already. It's like, I can't believe it's here. I'm being mean to somebody that's near a dead body, but it's just such a rough interaction. You're like, wait. Dave. I felt them both pull me away until I was propped against the wall, Tyson gently petting my head. You good? Better, but yeah, all right. Can't Someone explain what just happened? You reckon to be alright getting close to a body like that? Come on, pup. Breathe for me. Does he have like a debilitating blood fear? Just something everyone but us knows.
Was this set up earlier? I feel like this might have been mentioned at one point. I don't remember. Well, no, because we watched a horror movie and we were fine.
Yeah, because Orlando's freaked out.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe I'm just thinking about how you're afraid of blood in Zomboid.
I just want it. That's not a fear of blood. I don't want to get infected.
No, I thought your character literally was afraid of blood.
Oh, my first character was afraid of blood. It was a problem. Yeah. He was afraid of blood and also bad at reading and bad at organizing things. So he couldn't carry him. He couldn't put much in a container, and he was slow at reading skill books. And blood freaked him out, which meant that even though he was good at combat, after a few moments of combat, he was then afraid because of the blood, and he couldn't couldn't do surgery on himself. This is like a growing list of reasons why my first character was a problem there. I thought you were talking about me taking baths all the time. I'm like, I don't want to get infected with bloody clothes.
No.
It's bad for hygiene. You gotta wash the blood off you. What if the zombie blood gets in your wound and that makes you a zombie now, like in some settings? That's a thing in Walking Dead. They do biological warfare by shooting people with zombie arrows. I nodded quickly, covering my eyes. Dean added a hand to my shoulder as Tyson continued to stroke my head. When I opened my eyes, I could see Orlando having an equally hard time processing what was going on, hyperventilating with his head resting against Sal's chest.
Everything all right over here? What? Sorry, I read that purposefully goofy, but I thought it would be funny. He just walks in and is Nani.
This is not my senpai. I looked up to Haas as he looked over to where Benson lay on the ground, dead.
Oh.
Haas lingered back while Roswell stepped forward, almost steeling himself for what he was looking at.
How are you keeping your cool like this?
Roswell shook his head, eyes narrowing as he continued to look before he backed back up.
Okay. We have a problem. You're kidding, right? Roswell, he's fucking dead.
I hadn't heard Haas swear before. Typically, he tried to keep that sort of stuff, well, you know.
I can see that, Haas. But the problem we have is much bigger than that. Much bigger.
How, Roswell? What do you know? I got up, bracing myself against Tyson, who was lingering nearby. Roswell, what's the problem? Sal wandered over, guiding Orlando over too by the hand, until we were all standing somewhat in a circle.
This was murder.
How do you know that, dude? The gun was, it's specifically suicide. What are you talking about?
He shot himself, didn't he? Dave, if you hadn't, it's not suicide.
You noticed?
I did.
Okay, everyone? One of us killed Benson.
What? We looked around at each other, sizing each other up. Even Tyson, who had been supporting myself against, had taken a step back to give me some space. Are you sure?
I can confirm that. Not only that, someone's messed with the crime scene. How are you confirming this? You just walked in. What are you talking about? You weren't even here.
Wait, what? How? Why? I don't... It's the wound, right?
Well, maybe.
That
did
wound.
Haas do it?
Think about think about the hand he's holding the gun in, and you know, right?
Oh damn, you're right.
Is it the exit wound on the wrong side of his head for the hand that he's currently holding the gun in, like it was planted?
Possible. Is that what you noticed, Dean?
Can they show us while we're talking about the scene?
There was a CG. We might need to go back to look at
Yeah,
it.
no, I'm just saying like this would be a good time to cut back to it in the game while we're currently
Yeah.
talking about it. Like if you're gonna talk about the evidence of the gun wound, just cut to it again. That's what that's the
we
subject.
don't need to see the sprites.
Yeah.
We could just show us that's the CG.
I did.
What I noticed. That gun. Way too powerful to cause a wound like that. He'd have blown a lot more of his head off using something like that. Not just that, but reckon he could have used a gun that big given his size? It's a handgun.
You just
One of
pull
us
the
dropped
trigger.
it and it shot Orlando.
Yeah,
What are you
it's
talking
they're not
about?
hard to fire. But I'm guessing that his wound might not be from a gun, so it's just a really badly faked crime scene. Maybe he drew
Definitely.
a gun and somebody hit him in the head and killed him.
And it just landed beside him.
Yeah, I need someone to describe the wound. I felt my stomach lurch. If I had to support myself on my knees without falling, and I had to support myself on my knees without falling over, nailed it. So, one of us killed Benson.
And then changed the crime scene. What I don't get is why. I feel like Haas did it. That's why he was gone, and then he came back in and was like, "But what?" But then knew the crime scene was messed with, even though he's hardly even in the room yet.
Toaster,
What
what's
do
happening?
you mean?
The stakes are
What do you
happening. Everyone knows that this is a bad danger situation now. And everyone's going to
Yeah.
act like that is happening now.
The plot's finally starting.
What do you mean?
If Benson used the gun to kill himself, you wouldn't want to change the crime scene at all, would you?
Oh, right, that's fair.
So if it's murder, why not still use the same gun? Why change guns?
I hadn't thought of that.
I looked at the gun again, then immediately to Sal, who seemed to be the only one big enough to handle something like that. What? It's not a LMG, like with how big he was, with how he was still rubbing Orlando's back, it was hard to throw an accusation that way. Next up was Dean, who I guess could have also handled a gun like that. He got me looking at him and looked away just as quickly as he'd noticed, frowning.
So, that's it. One of us is a murderer.
Or someone else is here, like the person that we
Yeah.
know is here, for example, that we could volunteer the information of.
We've been here for 8 days and we've been inside like 6 rooms, and this is a mansion.
Yeah.
That explicitly has other rooms.
Yeah. This could be like that Mist book where there's an entire bonus pop. I guess I should compare it to Parasite, something people have actually seen. There could be bonus people in this mansion. There's
I don't know how I feel about you just referring to like a possible murderer in the mansion as a bonus person in the mansion. Like it's a gift that was included with our cereal, but okay.
Bonus people. They're going to kill and replace us one by one.
Oh dear.
The comment hung in the air before I realized that maybe there was another option. The moment I'd started speaking, all eyes were on me. I had a choice to make. I had no proof, and no evidence of the fact, but there was potentially one other person in this house we hadn't considered. One person that we hadn't seen, that as far as I was aware, only Benson and I knew about. Reveal Oz or stay quiet.
Stay quiet.
I can fix some of my fucked up saves now.
Yep.
I accidentally saved too deep in and ruined my save order. Stay quiet. I think we should call the cops. Well, this seems like it causes an ending.
There isn't really much else we can do, is there?
All right, I'll go call the cops.
Sure, I guess.
What should we do now? You're sticking with me. I don't think I trust you enough to leave him alone with you. Dean can take care of him. Not that I'm complaining, but... Hey, I can take care of myself. We can also all just stay in this room. We could just...
Yeah.
Why are we... What do we need, the buddy system again? Right after the murder? Let's split up, gang. What?
Dave, I mean this in the nicest way possible, but please go wait in the foyer.
Sal, not you too. I don't... Just... I hated it. I hated what my friends were doing, of all things. The moment something bad happens, the very moment, and all of a sudden I'm just... something to be protected.
Dave,
I wanted to
you just
help.
landed on your butt while running forward.
Yeah.
You went to pick up a gun.
To pick up a gun on the ground, somehow managed to trip in a way that landed on his ass, then cried about the blood, and then everyone had to carry him away. Like...
This is not the moment to be like, I'm a big boy, I don't need protecting. Yes, you do. Objectively.
I wanted to help. I wanted to be equal. Sure, I admit there wasn't much I could do, but being anywhere near the body was... And being anywhere near the body was freaking me out, but... I stormed off. The police would be here soon anyway. It didn't matter. It'd just be like talking to the other officers at Dad's work. I'd be polite, answer anything they needed to know, and I'd be able to go home quicker. I didn't do anything wrong, and they were just doing their jobs. The officers at Dad's work.
I guess his dad's a cop.
I'm trying to
Maybe
remember.
that's why he hates
yeah.
his dad.
Wasn't that established in the Peacekeeper discussion thing? That his dad was a cop or something? But also his dad died a year ago, I think. I think we also established in the previous... We did get more context on the characters by branching back and finding a bunch of other stuff. So it wasn't the worst time to get stuck. But then we ran out of things and we were like, what the... Oh god, that didn't fix it. Slumping on the stairs, I took a seat, running my hands through my fur. Dean wandered out from the foyer, coming to sit down next to me, but stayed quiet. Was he here because somehow they decided I needed to be chaperoned? Dean, I'm fine. You can go back with the others. I don't need anyone taking care of me. You say that, but I'm still concerned. No one told me to come out here. I just wanted to see if you were okay. How could they just... I don't need protecting from everything. I saved someone's life, Dean. I'm not even the youngest one here. Why is it always just... I'm sorry, I didn't mean... Jeez. No wonder you haven't said yes to an actual date. Can't say I'm innocent of wanting to protect you either.
How... I'm trying to understand...
Chula.
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly. Like, I'm trying to understand how he was trying to come off by saying that. A little bit like, what? This has nothing to do with dating. Just just kind of being condescending. Yikes.
Even if you're having a moment of awareness or whatever, it's just like a strange, like... It's kind of a strange moment of like... Golly, this is why you won't sleep with me. And it's like, not the time to think about in terms like, Jesus, we're in the middle of something. Damn, I'm handling this life or death situation wrong. No wonder you haven't fucked me yet. Like, why are you saying this out loud? What is happening? Also, if I sounded distracted for a second, it's because McSkinny joined the chat for a second and then left. And I was extremely like, what's going on? Is he about to start talking? Does he think I'm recording echo right now or something and wanting to hop in? Because I do that locally. I'm not in Discord for that. I was very like, what's about to happen? What's going on here? I crossed my arms and turned away from him. I was annoyed, and the stress of an incoming interrogation was not making things better. Is there anything I can do? Anything I can say? Dean, just... I trailed off, shaking my head. Because I know our friendship started with some random encounter at a coffee shop. I know that at the rate we're going to be old and gray before we get a romantic night to ourselves to really see how... Dean! Dean! Someone was just killed in the other room. What are you doing?
I guess you can't criticize him for trying, I guess.
Golly, we're gonna be old and gray by the time we fuck, because people just keep dying whenever we're about to hit things off. Last time it was your dad. Remember how your dad's dead and stuff? No wonder you haven't fucked me. Like, Dean! Dean! Stop! Oh my god! Somebody punch him again. He needs to be punched.
He's trying his best, all right? He's really listen, Grinder up here in the mountains has been pretty dry for the past few days, so he's really just tense up.
He doesn't even know that I just fucking had to undo him killing one of our friends. Like, Dean. We're gonna be old and gray before we get a romantic night to ourselves and really see how things go. But even if you started dating Haas tomorrow, I'd still care about you. We all do. That's all that was in there. Maybe unwarranted, and maybe it went too far, but just thought you should know is all. Okay. Eventually the cops came and questioned us all. It was odd though. No one was taken away, and we were allowed to go home with little fuss. It was only a day later that I heard from Dean that we were all in the clear and that they'd ruled Benson's death a suicide. Not that went down with him, Haas, or Roswell. A week later, I was just sitting outside when I saw Roswell wandering down the street. It seemed like he was on the way to visit, as even upon waving him down, he made a beeline to the front gate.
Hello, Dave.
Hey. It had been a tense couple of days, especially with Haas moving back home and talks of others moving away too. How fast did he pick up and move? Whoa. I guess if he's going back home, you can just get your stuff and go back, I guess. Exactly. I just associate moving as being such a long-term plan, but he just went back to an existing home. You doing okay? Didn't expect you over. Otherwise, I would have. Roswell shook his head, sighing.
No, I wanted to just swing by before I go do something is all.
Do something? Anything fun? My attempts to be chipper fell on deaf ears, apparently, as he just shook his head and kept his eyes elsewhere.
Just Benson's death. If it was suicide, there's nothing we could have done, right?
I guess not. You're not about to say you still think it was murder, do you?
Of course I am. The evidence was there.
But the police said...
I know what the police said. I know what they decided, and I disagree. That's why I'm going back to the mansion to find out if I can do any investigating on my own.
But that's trespassing, is it?
I'm curious if the mansion's gonna even be there. Because remember last time we left the mansion? Like, even just a few days later, there was like no record of it ever existing.
It's a moment of learning. It's context. But that's trespassing.
Hey, we were allowed there for the month. Besides, I can just say I forgot something. It's not that big a deal. I would have accused Tyson for doing something so I would have accused Tyson of doing something so gruesome, but he can't even do math, let alone mess with a crime scene. Dude, can you like chill the fuck out, Roswell, please?
How is this still about ragging on Tyson? Dear Lord, someone died. The stakes are a little higher than your high school bullying trauma. Also, you think Tyson's not smart enough to insufficiently rig a crime scene so that you still immediately clock that it was a crime scene.
Literally the only person there who didn't clock that the crime scene was manipulated was Dave.
Yeah. It's a completely botched attempt to hide to make it look like a suicide that everyone immediately picked up on. But Tyson's too stupid to do something like that. Like, that doesn't make sense.
He didn't even know his thing was like, it's so silly.
Hey, you don't need to go taking pot shots at Tyson. It's not fair, Roswell.
Enough of you coming to his defense whenever an analysis comes into question.
Yeah, it's because your analysis fucking sucks, Roswell.
Yeah.
Fuck you. Here's my analysis. You're an asshole.
This trend of you overlooking every single shortcoming he has, as if he's this idol you have, needs to stop. It's not fair on Orlando, myself, or most importantly, you. Have you just forgotten everything he did to you? To us?
I mean, yes, because the game will not tell us.
Yeah.
And none of you ever bring it up, either.
Also, none of these are shortcomings. Literally nothing he did in this scene was a shortcoming that we are forgiving. You're just being an asshole.
You've just decided that he's a murderer, but also too stupid to be a murderer. So you're basically not accusing him of a murder. You're just unrelatedly going after him in the middle of an unrelated topic where he's both not in the room and not part of the topic. But he's changed. He's a good guy now.
No, Dave. I might be a year younger, but you're much more naive.
Whatever you say.
Your words are as empty as your soul.
I was just about to quote that.
Roswell turned to leave and I stood annoyed. I'm not naive. I know what he did. Tell us. Roswell's tone was bitter, almost cold in his reply. His gaze was equally fierce, almost cruel to the point of me getting chills, and I sat down again.
I was hoping that, somehow, you'd remember who the enemy was, Dave.
This is
probably
the most profoundly
murderer.
Childish thing to ever say.
The murderer is probably the enemy. Remember the murderer you were bringing up? With the murder?
Yeah.
You've got some kind of Stockholm syndrome that I just cannot help you through.
That's not what that means.
I just want to say that, like, if you... This is rich coming from someone being like, you're the naive one, Dave. Don't you remember who the enemy is? He's our enemy, our bully from school when we were kids. The enemy. You can't like him because he's not on the right team. It's like you're literally being a child right now, Roswell. This is not how adults act.
It's also just like Roswell's not even one of the people that acts like Tyson's a problem in the first hours of the game. Like, he's organizing the trip and we bring Tyson as our +1 and he's like, aha, that's your +1? Anyway, like, I don't remember anything specific
this
between Roswell.
This will be a big deal. Like, yeah. It was Orlando that reacted really negatively.
Like, apparently Roswell hates Tyson more than anyone, but that didn't come up until like 10 hours into us playing this game. To the point where we were confused, like, wait, Roswell hates Tyson? I felt like they hadn't even met before, given how little he reacted to bringing Tyson on this trip. It's starting to feel like we should have arrived at the. I know that they have to deal with the contrivance of sticking us on a bus that we can't just walk. We can't just get in the car and leave. But narratively, it feels like you almost need a setup of us having just arrived separately with Tyson, and it being this thing we sprung on, and that's drama then, because. The fact that there's time for it to be drama before we're even on the bus to come on this trip should have nipped this whole thing in the bud, but instead they just kind of don't react to Tyson until much later, and then by then it just feels weird that they're reacting like that to Tyson when they didn't originally.
Yeah, it's just
because like Tyson,
I don't understand why they're so mean to him.
Yeah,
he's a completely he's been nothing but kind to people.
Yeah. For what throws me off is just that, like, their conflicts don't really resurface in any comprehensible way besides the just kind of goofy Canis Lupus or Canis Lupus or whatever the fuck, like, classification debate.
Yeah.
Like of him being dumb and angry. That was the only real moment where Tyson was ever in the wrong, really. Aside from that, the entire trip has just been... Tyson comes on this trip, Roswell seems fine with that. Everyone's really mean to Tyson every single day, several times a day, and he keeps going off on his own to get away from everyone being mean to him all the time. Then, like, tensions seemingly continue to rise, and everyone's even more mad at Tyson, more and more and more. But none of it's based on things that happened. Everyone's just remembering they hate Tyson, I guess. And then by the end, Roswell's like, I can't believe you've forgiven him after everything he's done. Like, which seems like a comment that would come in a game where Tyson did stuff. But Tyson didn't do stuff in the game. So he just is escalating his anger at Tyson throughout the narrative without there being an escalation in the narrative. So he just weirdly escalated heavily against Tyson since the bus for increasingly confusing reasons. And more so than ever, there just is a murder that should really be refocusing the stakes for people. Like, they should definitely be like, that's the focus right now. Remember the murder that I was trying to recruit you to help me investigate? Remember that? I'm gonna fight with you about Tyson, who's not here and not part of the murder.
Bad. I feel bad for Tyson. He's literally, he's introduced as like the problem guy asshole, and he's done nothing but more successfully flirt with us than Dean. Compared to Dean,
people are meaner to Tyson in this game than they are to Flynn and Echo. And Flynn actually has a blow up that makes players of the game deeply uncomfortable and is mandatory before the route split. So you have to have experienced that. And Tyson got in an argument once is his sins so far in this game. Like,
characters
like, it's just
in stories
he needs to
definitely
be worse, basically.
Yeah. Characters in stories definitely need to have flaws, right? But it's very interesting in that everyone is saying that guy has flaws and it's bad. But really all that is doing is portraying the flaws of everyone else.
Exactly.
Like, everyone in this game, you need to
sell it for Tyson that he's fucked up, and there's valid reasons to be mad at him in the narrative so far. Otherwise, every single person that's mad at him all the time just seems like they're the problem.
Yeah, they just come off as emotionally immature. And like, that's kind of, I think that's really the thing that I've been sticking on this time, is it's like, there are two characters in this game so far that act like adults. And it's Sal and Tyson, which is weird because it is not who I was expecting to be the calm, level-headed ones, you know? And then
your
like pretty much BF. Everyone, exactly. Like, he's sold to us as our edgy, problematic wolf BF, but he's literally been just kind of nothing but like nice and cheeky. Like, yeah, does he have an edgy sense of humor? Yeah, it seems like it. But like, literally anytime he's ever said anything like quote unquote mean to us, it's been so clearly in jest, and Dave reacts positively to it. So it's like, if we're supposed to pick up that he's like an abusive person that's about to fly off the handle, it doesn't come off that way. And then when Roswell's like, they're the mean one, he's the enemy, Dave, it's just like, oh, Roswell, you have the emotional maturity of a literal fourth grader.
Roswell sounds like a mean girl all of a sudden. Like, what is this?
Exactly. It's just very odd. And like, just the way people have been treating him this whole game is just so strange. Like, honestly, if I was in this friend
I'm still not entirely sure which one's the intended read. Like, is Roswell supposed to just be an embarrassing little shit that's basically just jealous? And that's what this whole thing is? Like, he's like, is Tyson just fine-ish? And Roswell's just like a deeply jealous, immature person and just incapable of interrogating that? Because that's what it seems like is the actual story.
Yeah. I'm so
syndrome.
nervous.
Like, that's just not even remotely what that means.
Yeah. I'm just nervous for when we do the Roswell route, because it's funny. The characters that I like read the voices for, most of them I kind of loathe. Like, I cannot stand Roswell. I don't want to know more about him because he's just a dick. Is like, and I'm curious if there is, I'm curious what like the fans feel about it. Like, are we the weird ones for being like, oh, we do not relate to this unsocialized asshole? Or is he like the fan favorite character? You know, like, I have no idea because I haven't looked at any fan art or really looked anything up for the game. But it's just like I can't tell how we're supposed to read him because he's been so aggro and such an asshole from the start that I'm actually struggling to understand. I think it's a moral failure on Dave's part that Dave is friends with him. Like I think it portrays Dave as more of a moral fuck up and a pushover than Dave being friends with Tyson does. Despite the text constantly making it out to be that Tyson is being nice to Tyson is a failure on Dave's part. It's actually being friends with Roswell that's a failure on Dave's part.
I mean, everyone collectively fucked up by not stopping Tyson being on this trip if it's actually that much of a problem. Like,
yeah,
there was a moment where anyone could have said something, or everyone could have said something, and if Dave's that dumb and that off base and making that much of a mistake, they could have just called him out on that and undone this mistake preemptively. So it's just like, inherently, you're like, seems like everyone's kind of full of shit then, if they didn't react that severely.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't have data. I don't even know how you get data. I guess just spending a lot of time in the community and just hearing more, but I can't do that without getting spoiled on stuff. But I have definitely seen comments of like, oh, more people that instantly hate Roswell. So it's at least not unfounded or unprecedented.
Good. I'm team hate Roswell. I'm also team Flynn is my favorite
Roswell
Echo
conspiracy
character. So yeah, no, this character's a.
I mean, I think a significant
dickhole.
number of people who have read all of Echo say that Flynn is their favorite.
Yes.
And the people that don't like Flynn as much often didn't finish Echo.
This is betrayal, pure and simple. I hope one day you can wake up from whatever spell he's put you under.
I was in a daze for a few moments as Roswell stormed off, and I made chase. Roswell, wait. You don't need to chase him, it's fine. A week later, he turned up dead. Shot, apparently. Although they had no suspects. Was found apparently near the mansion, but I never found out if he made it all the way there. With Haas gone, Tyson driving off one day with no promises to return, I just left Sal, Orlando, Dean, and myself still in town.
Remember, keep an eye out for passwords.
Yeah. Last I heard from Orlando and Sal, they were taking a road trip to visit Sal's sister, but they didn't say when they'd come back. Eventually, though, Dean and I had our date. It wasn't bad, but something was certainly missing. A week later, we tried again, and now we're just testing the waters. I've been meaning to let Orlando know, but for some reason, he never picks up anymore. One thing that sticks with me, though, is the note I left things with Roswell on. I wish I could have said or done something to have ended things better. I understand. Sorry, I'm trying to simultaneously read it and also scan for passwords.
Yeah.
Instead, I just have this last sentiment as to what I have to remember our friendship by. At least, hopefully, things can start getting better now.
All right. So
Bad End Benson.
Bad End Benson. Yeah.
Still
so
Bad
I have,
End Benson.
I was taking some notes, and so the possible passwords I have are Stockholm Syndrome, Enemy, Betrayal, Road Trip, Date, Sentiment. Oh.
There was nothing after the chime sounded, almost as something broke.
I guess that was the last sentiment.
What? But the moment I opened my mouth, I doubled over, crumpled on the floor with more questions than I had answers for. Benson shot. Dead. By who and why, I couldn't say. There was something off about it. Not the dead body, but something telling me that this was foul play, rather than just a tragedy. We hadn't seen Benson for a while, so maybe there was still time. Maybe some way we could stop this from happening. I guess it was betrayal.
Yeah,
Solid
I mean, I guess it
guess.
makes sense because he's like, all I have to remember him by is the last sentiment, and literally that is the last line in the text where he's like, this is betrayal. But like, There were quite a few words in there that I would have assumed could be passwords. As I said, I think my list was Stockholm Syndrome, enemy.
Yeah. I definitely zeroed
Betrayal.
in on the Tyson argument because it didn't really fit the trajectory of the story. So it felt like this forced inserted thing where you're like, we're talking about Tyson for some reason, and then it's like, okay, well then, I like by the end, once I was thinking about passwords, I'm like, oh, they put the Tyson conversation in because the password's in it, isn't it? Like the Sal hospital scene. We got it. All right.